بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأشرف الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم إنا نبرأ إليك من حولنا وقوتنا وقوتنا تجري إلى حولك وقوة وفضلك يا ذا القوة المتين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا متقبلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم افتح على أسماعنا وأبصارنا وعقولنا وأرواحنا وأفئدتنا فتحا يليق بجودك وكرمك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Today, inshallah, we're going to start the series of the 40 hadith, 40 plus hadith of Imam al-Nawawi, which has taken a special value throughout Islamic history. And you can feel, subhanAllah, the blessings of Allah in that collection. There are so many things that scholars throughout history have done, but certain things Allah has spread the acceptance and the love of these things in the hearts of people. And God knows best, it seems like, because of the sincerity of the people who were behind that effort. For example, the tafsir of Ibn Kathir is not the best tafsir, actually. It's very kind of average tafsir. It's not the biggest, and it's not the most comprehensive. But for whatever reason, when you talk about tafsir, everyone talks about Ibn Kathir. And it's just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed it to be accepted by people. And if you ask any person, like layman or scholar, like, what tafsir do you know? The first thing that pops to mind, like Ibn Kathir. Same thing in hadith. When you talk about hadith collections, there are like hadith collections that have tens of thousands of hadith. But for whatever reason, Riyadh al-Salihin, which is not actually a jami', and now we understand what a jami' is. It's not Bukhari, it's not Muslim. It's only collection that is extracted from other books, from Bukhari, Muslim, Nasa'i, Abu Dawud, and not in its entirety has solid or authentic hadith. But for whatever reason, subhanAllah, it is said actually. So what is the number one book that is in the positions of Muslim household in the whole world? That is the Quran, right? What is the second book? It's Riyadh al-Salihin, actually. And this has been surveyed. Riyadh al-Salihin is the most commonly possessed book by a Muslim family. Not Bukhari, not Muslim, not Lulu and Murjan, not anything else. It's Riyadh al-Salihin, actually. And so if you don't have it, you should feel very bad. So it's okay, Nazif, I can see that look.
I actually have it. I feel bad because I have it correct.
Oh, there you go. So, and when you talk about what's the most common series that is taught actually and explained and crushed over and over and over, like when people teach, that would be the 40 hadith actually, which is a collection that he took out from Riyadh al-Salihin, and that is what he thought and what scholars actually have thought. These are the fundamentals of Islam, the basic or the basis for all the beliefs, jurisprudence, and all the practical matters that the minimum a person should have, should understand, should comprehend. Some scholars completed it to 50. There are 42 hadiths. So some scholars actually, Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, for example, added 7 more and completed it to 50 hadith. It sounds like a better number, right? But for whatever reason, it's still called the 40 hadith of Nawawi. So this is inshallah what we're going to study. So, and Imam al-Nawawi, just to give you an idea who he was subhanAllah, a gigantic figure. Unparalleled. There are like so many scholars throughout Islam. And we talk about Shafi'i, Abu Hanifa, Ibn Qayyim, Ibn Taymiyyah. There are like hundreds, thousands of scholars. The ones that stand out as unique, subhanAllah, some of the people, I think they're the most genius people throughout history. I'm going to disclose some of you. Shafi'i, for example, he was undoubtedly one of the most brilliant people, I think, in history. Nawawi is one of those people as well. And you'll understand why in a second. So, Imam al-Nawawi, the interesting part, is born in a small town actually south to Damascus, like probably 30 miles more or less. So, just going to show you where. So this is Syria, this is Damascus. So this is where Noah is. So Nawawi is the of Noah, basically. That's what it means. And Noah is very well known. You know why? Because of him, actually. Otherwise, no one would like. Why would you know like where Alvin or Perlan is? There is nothing there, right? Noah was like that. So it is known because of him, actually. And people go and visit his mosque, and you go there and there is nothing, actually. It's just a small village. But for whatever reason, every single person knows what Noah is and where it is. So he was born in Noah in the year 631 of Hijri, and died in 676, so 45-year-old. And that shows you that in very small amount of time, what he's done actually is what others would need maybe in 2-3 centuries. This is the same thing with the Shafi'i. The Shafi'i died when he was 54, something like that. But what he's done in a small amount of time is certainly something that others would take maybe 500 years to do with the average production. And there are a lot of anecdotes about Nawawi that when he was 7, he saw a light, and it was, he woke up his father, what is this? So his father realized that probably it was the night of power, Laylatul Qadr. So that is irrelevant, doesn't matter. What matters is basically what he's done. So his father owned a grocery store, and like the habit of people in the olden days, he put him in the shop to help him. That's a child labor, right? So during that time, he started memorizing the Quran, actually. He had no distraction. So instead of helping, it was like a good time for him just to dedicate himself to memorizing the Quran. And by the time he was like a teenager, he had completely finished the entire Quran. When he would go out to the streets, like kids would try to drag him into playing with them, and he would actually run away because he was reciting the Quran. He doesn't want to be distracted. And that's when one of the scholars who was passing by noticed that there's something unique about this person, and told his teacher and his father to take good care of him. And he told them this person is going to be something prominent, something brilliant, that his knowledge would spread over, and people are going to benefit from him. So when he was 18, he moved to Damascus. That's where the Umayyad Masjid was. It's just like, Damascus at that time was like Boston, for medicine. So everyone, if you have to become a scholar, you either have to go to Baghdad, that's in Iraq, or to Damascus, one of these big capitals of knowledge and science. So he moved there, and that's where he sought his knowledge and remained actually for almost most of his life, till he visited Al-Khalil and Al-Quds in Palestine, then went back, visited his hometown, and he died there. And he's buried there. So you still go see his masjid actually, and you see where he's buried at the cemetery. So the interesting part about some of the interesting things about his life, that when he started seeking knowledge, he felt like he had the desire to study medicine, wanted to become a doctor. So he said he bought the book of Ibn Sina, Avicenna, called the Al-Qanun fi al-Tibb, the canon of medicine, basically. And so he started reading in it, and he bought some tools and wanted to start studying medicine. And he said, قَالَ فَأَظْلَمَ عَلَيَّ قَلْبِي. So my heart became so dark, so tough. And he didn't know what it was. So he kept thinking about it for a few days, and he realized since he bought that book and he started working into medicine, this thing, that's what tightened his heart. Hassan, you still have an opportunity since you haven't finished training.
I know that feeling.
Especially when you're on call, right? So he said that then I decided, okay, no, nothing to do with medicine. So he bought the book, he sold the book and sold all the stuff, the stethoscope and the blood pressure cuff. And he said he returned to his like a previous career, and that's when he realized it's a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that keep focused on what you're doing and do not be distracted. So a lot of scholars actually had interest in medicine. But that shows you what a smart person eventually would do. Shafi'i had interest in medicine also. But again, imagine, subhanAllah, like Nawawi became like a doctor. Like, what would he leave us with? Right? A book about how mint and green tea is helpful, right? And then what else? And same thing, like, you know, Shafi'i, for example, if he became a doctor, what he would say, like, you know, don't drink water while you're eating. That's what Ibn Sina had in his book, right? So, but subhanAllah, this is a sign, shows you that their genuine interest in ilm was a reason for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give him the tawfiq. And this is, I mean, every single student of knowledge knows who Nawawi is. Every single person knows what Riyadh al-Salihin, whether they read it or not, but they know what Riyadh al-Salihin is, and every single person knows the Al-Arba'in al-Nawawiyah. One of the most interesting things that he had a halaqah actually of fiqh. So do you know what's the most famous books of Nawawi? It's called Al-Majmu'. Al-Majmu' meaning the comprehensive collection of fiqh. Do you know how it was published, basically? So he would sit in the halaqah and just start talking, and people write things till it became a huge collection. So, and he didn't realize that people were copying it and spreading it, and it was all over the world. So when one of the students told him that, oh, we have the majmu'ah for you, he said, like, at least let me read it, review it. He said, it's too late, because Sarat biha rutba, because it's widely spread, it has taken the world by storm, basically. And he started making istighfar, basically, like, you know, I didn't even read it, but this is how brilliant, subhanAllah, he was. People had a book out of his own, someone dictating and quoting them. That remains actually one of the most important work for Imam Nawawi, and everyone knows what the Majmu' for Nawawi. It is one of the main references in fiqh al-Shafi'i. Imagine, subhanAllah, like this is what I call like encyclopedic figures. I mean, someone, just without books, without websites, without apps, without anything, just, saying things and quoting the Hadith and the Quran and doing this and that. And this is something beyond imagination, subhanAllah. It's just like a living encyclopedia of everything. And everything in that book is as authentic and pure as it could be. So that's what al-Nawawi is. So, and some of the interesting aspects of Nawawi that he was talented in everything, in the Quran, in the Hadith, in the Aqidah. He's actually one of the muhaddith. Also, he has special interest in Hadith. He had what they call Darul Hadith. And that's a lot of Hadith schools, they still call like the Nawawi Darul Hadith, for example, just to get the honor of naming that place after him. So when he wrote the Riyadh al-Salihin, after that he collected those 42 hadith, which he considered the basic foundation of every Muslim, that or without which no one can live. And this is inshallah what we're going to study. So what I really like to do is each hadith we recite it, and then you have a week or two or whatever to memorize it. Literally, it's very easy, subhanAllah. Memorizing the hadith, a lot of people don't know a simple fact. That memorizing the hadith is much easier than memorizing the Quran, by the way. You may not believe that, but when you try it, you'll understand why. Because the hadith is so distinct from each other, as opposed to the Quran is very similar, mutashabih, right? And when you learn the hadith, that's it. You don't confuse it with other hadith. You still can, because there are some certain similar aspects. But it's, believe me, and I'm telling you based on experience, and this is what everyone says, memorizing the hadith is much easier than memorizing the Quran. So, and once you get the hang of it, it becomes a pattern actually. There is a way to memorize the hadith and to remember who said so, and this is Hasan or Sahih or whatever. You develop that habit, just like anything else, and with the practice you develop like a certain talent in acquiring the hadith. So we will read the hadith inshallah here, and maybe a couple of times till we make sure that you got the enunciation and pronunciation complete and correct. And you just every day try to memorize it. And if you want to record I can read it, or I'm sure there is something on YouTube where you can find it recited, so at least you can help yourself go over it a couple of times. So by the end of this series, inshallah, you would know at least this is the basic. You got the bare minimum of a hadith collection that everyone should know. And then after that, we'll go, inshallah, spend whatever time. I mean, you know the pattern, how we go over the hadith. Sometimes it could take an hour, sometimes it could take a few, inshallah, depending on how deep you want to go. So today, inshallah, we'll start with the first hadith, and that is the hadith narrated by Bukhari and Muslim. And this hadith is very well known. You got it?
Yes.
Who wants to read it? Or do you want me to read it before? Go ahead.
عن أمير المؤمنين أبي حفص عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله ومن كانت هجرته للدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلا ما هاجر إليه. رواه Imam Muhaddith.
So Bukhari and Muslim. Good. Anyone wants to give it another shot?
I can try it.
Go ahead.
inshallah. Another Amir al-Mu'mineen Abi حفص عمر بن خطاب رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله ومن كانت هجرته للدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه.
I'm going to read it for you one last time, inshallah. So, عن أمير المؤمنين أبي حفص عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه قال: سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول: إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله ومن كانت هجرته لدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. And the hadith again is narrated by Imam Bukhari and Muslim, so it's one of the most authentic hadith. And this is one of the hadith, as you will see inshallah, that scholars have said it has really involved every single aspect of the deen. That's why a lot of the books actually of the hadith or the Sharia, when they quote the hadith, this is often the most quoted hadith and the first actually. This is, by the way, the first hadith in Riyadh al-Salihin, right? And one of the, again, most quoted hadith you will ever hear. So inshallah, today we'll delve in it, inshallah, and try to dissect it and see where we get bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So, bismillah. So let's just go over a few things.
Sheikh, are we memorizing the matan or the isnad as well?
Just memorizing them.
Okay.
So when you say,
إنما الأعمال
yeah, but it's helpful, just say Umar bin Khattab. It's very simple and easy.
Okay.
And especially this is, like a lot of the companions, they did not narrate too many hadith. So like Umar bin Khattab, Abu Bakr, there are very few actually that they. So this is one of the tips actually on how to know which companion. This is one of the hadith actually that is Umar narrated. There are not many two hadith actually narrated by Umar bin Khattab. So. So we just get a different color. So I'm just gonna go like the general meaning briefly, and then inshallah we'll take it a sentence by sentence. So إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Indeed, the deeds are tied or according to the intentions behind them. So the a'mal are the actions or the deeds. Niyat is intentions. And indeed, for each person, what he had or what that person had intended. So whoever migrated to Allah and His Messenger, then his migration is for Allah and His Messenger. And whose migration was for a dunya, like a world, to gain, or a woman to marry, then his migration was for whatever he has migrated for. Easy and simple, right? Which is the general meaning that the deeds are like tied or are measured or rewarded based on the intention. And whenever you have intention, then you'll be accordingly rewarded. If it was something for Allah, then it is for Allah. If it was a worldly matter, then it's for a worldly matter, right? So this hadith is so powerful to a point that some of the scholars said, if you have to memorize only two hadith in the entire Islam and say that these hadith are comprehensive and contain everything in the Sunnah, this would be one of them. What is the other one?
Hadith Jibril.
The what?
Hadith Jibril.
What is forbidden is clear and what is halal is clear.
No. I'm going to write it for you here, actually. من أحدث في أمرنا هذا ما ليس منه فهو رد. Whoever innovates in our matter in this deen something that does not belong to it, then it is rad, meaning rejected. And why is that? Scholars said because that hadith includes all the practices, right? So these are the practices, and this talks about the practices of the heart. So you very much encompass all the inner and outer aspects of the Sharia. So now you know you have two hadith that you must memorize. You cannot get away without this hadith, and this is an authentic hadith as well. من أحدث في أمرنا هذا ما ليس منه فهو رد. And this is basically the other hadith that talks about the actions of the heart. Okay? So, what is the niyyah? What is the intention? This is what we're going to talk about, inshallah. And then we'll tell you how that was actually implied in the Sharia. So, what is the intention? It's very hard to explain something that is very obvious, right? Stating the obvious is harder than... when you say I had the intention.
It's like the reason behind why you want to do an action.
Okay, so that's one thing. That's the reason. That's true. What else?
It's like a mental commitment, like the action is not done.
What do you say first?
Mental commitment.
Okay, so mental commitment. I like that. Okay. What else?
In order to make it come to fruition, it has to be followed by action.
That sounds like, you know, Mark Twain's like statement. It's too sophisticated for me.
But I mean, if you make the niyyah, but you never follow through.
Right, but that's not what the niyyah is, right?
It's whatever you want the outcome to be. Like, are you trying to get at?
Simply, if we have just to give it one word. I mean, what you're saying is all correct, but I'm just trying to make things like simple.
Desire.
Okay, that's very close actually. Desire.
Commitment.
Plan.
The what?
Plan.
Okay, plan. It's just the thought actually. Easy and simple, right? Actually, this is like sunnah for dummies.
Thanks.
For me, that's what I'm saying. I usually like things to be really simplified. So the intention is truly the thought that you would have for anything, actually. Now, if you really need more sophisticated terminology, it's actually the pre-contemplation. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So the pre-contemplation, that's the hidden aspect of what you have. Contemplation is when you have the thought, actually. Pre-contemplation is even further, when it is in the even subconscious. Does that make sense? Even when it has not come to your consciousness yet. So that's the pre-contemplation, is the root of the intention. When it manifests, it becomes as contemplation. That's when you have the thought. And this is, where does this come from, by the way?
The heart.
No, from the Quran.
Oh.
يَعْلَمُ السِّرَّ وَأَخْفَى. Right? What is the sir? It's what's hidden. That people don't know, but you know. It's hidden in your chest. A sir, right? You don't disclose it. That's what Allah said. He said, Allah knows what's hidden. That's the secret. And what is even more hidden. What is more hidden? That is even the pre-contemplation before it comes to your cognition. So this is how deep it is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pointed this out. That even when you're not thinking about things, when they have not emerged to your consciousness, Allah knows them. This is what's going to happen to you. And this is how important, because all these thoughts or all these behaviors, they're cooking in your brain. They're like chemicals that are going to produce certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And when you have the thought, and you follow it with an action, basically that's when you become accountable. That's when your accountability becomes, you're held to what you think of, and you're held to what you execute. Okay? So when you have pre-contemplation, and then you have contemplation, and then you have, after that, this is every action goes through this series, by the way. Pre-contemplation, contemplation, then
Execution.
execution, exactly. If you want to say plan, but plan is part of the contemplation, what you're going to do, then execution, right? So, and that's why Imam Ghazali has a beautiful, actually, analogy of this. Is this my water?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about sadaq before. Did we talk about sincerity or truthfulness?
We touched it, but I don't think we talked about it at depth.
Let's talk about it, because that's really tied to the intention. That's the definition of the deeds are based on the intentions. So we need to understand what the intention that we have to make. And again, this is going to be a pattern, inshallah, in every hadith. You think the hadith means something, but when you really dig into it, It has much more to it than you think. I mean, like I said, this hadith is the most, one of two most powerful hadith in the entire Sunnah. So it's going to have a lot of meanings to it, right? So what does sidq mean? When something sidq, like when you say sidq, what is that?
Truthful.
Sidq. We say sadiq is true, right, or truthful. What does that mean?
I think the highest form of truthfulness to Allah and His Messenger and in your interactions.
And like in what? When you say fulan sadiq, he's truthful, what does that mean?
He doesn't lie.
He's what?
He doesn't lie.
Okay, there we go. Does not lie. What else?
He says what he means. Or
Okay, so does not lie. Sisters?
Sincere?
Okay. Where did you come with this meaning from? It's true, but I'm trying to put you on the spot to think more about it, actually. Where did this meaning come from?
Abu Bakr Siddiq.
If you're truthful, then sometimes you will go against your own benefit to be truthful, so you're sincere to the person you're being truthful to.
Okay.
Steve?
I was just gonna say Abu Bakr Siddiq and like the way he acted and that the reason why he got us the name of Siddiq.
Okay. So, right, that's a good example, but what's in Abu Bakr as-Siddiq that really made him?
Can we stray out of, if I was going to stray out of it, I'll say maybe Iman.
Right, but now it's like, Islam too and Ihsan. So, but we need to have the detailed manifestations of it, right? We don't want to go to general. We want to be more specific, actually. So that's when you're more specific, you dissect it more. So Imam Ghazali, and this is one of the most brilliant, actually, analogies he's made, because it's going to help you understand a lot of things you do. He said that sidq, actually, is the most important one attribute the believer can have, or a human being can have. So often I ask people, what is the most important attribute the believer should have? That would be sidq. Why is that? Because he said it is actually the attribute from which all other good deeds and all other attributes stem from. Everything is based on the sidq. And what is the sidq now? We said someone doesn't lie, right? Meaning what they believe in is the same thing that they say, right? And that is truly what sidq is, that your outer and inner aspects are in sync. So there is harmony between what you say, what you believe in, what you do, what you believe in. So there is no contradiction between the outer part and your inner part. Is that clear?
Yes.
What you see is what you get. What's in the heart is outside. Right? And that's where the sincerity comes, that's where the truthfulness comes, that's where... But to make it more clear, so he said there are different levels of truthfulness. Number one is the truthfulness of the intention, sidqun niyyah. Right? This is why I'm taking you to a different exit, talking about sidq, so you know how that's related to the intention. Sidqun niyyah is the purity of the niyyah, basically. And what does that mean, that purity of niyyah? That is, when you say something, you do it for Allah, meaning your niyyah is truly for Allah. That is called what? Ikhlas. Now you see where the ikhlas stems from the sidq, right? Ikhlas, what is the definition of ikhlas? It's the truthfulness of the niyyah. It's the sidqul niyyah, right? And then, when you say something and you're truthful, that's sidqul kalam, the truthfulness of the speech, which a lot of people shrink or reduce the aspect of sidq to speech, but that's only one segment actually, right? More importantly, you have the intention sidq, that is when you're true to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you have the truthfulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no one knows about it, it's hidden. But then Allah told you, He knows what's hidden and what's even you don't know yet, what's going to happen. Right? That's why Allah reward you for the sidq by more sidq, and for the lack of sidq by lack of sidq, meaning it's going to generate. Truthfulness begets truthfulness, purity begets purity, and vice versa. Right? So we started with the truthfulness of the intention, and then the truthfulness of the speech, and we talked about the contemplation. That is what, when we say the contemplation, when we say someone has a truthfulness of the contemplation, what is that? And what is that khuluq? Al-irada. That's the strong will. Where did it come from? Sidq, truthfulness. When someone means what they think of actually, we're gonna do it, right? And then, when you start the execution, that is called al-azima. Azima meaning the firmness, basically, in action. And then, when you maintain that sidq of maintenance, that is called what? Istiqamah. That is the perseverance. Where did all these things come from? Sidq. And it started with what?
Pre-contemplation.
With the intention. What does that mean? إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. All the actions are based on what? The intention. Got it? Now you see what the Prophet ﷺ told you? إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. 3 words. 3 words. Why doesn't he want to go into too much details? So everyone understands it's based on their level. Right? Because if you get a layman and tell him, pre-contemplation, it's like, you know what, leave me alone. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ, Allah gave him that eloquent, miraculous way of expressing things. Everyone takes from it what they get, right? Everyone is happy, and practically it's the same endpoint, meaning you have to be pure in your intention and do it. But what it truly means now, when we say إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, the deeds or the actions are based on the intentions. In what? Number 1, in their acceptance. When you have the purity of the intention, then you have the acceptance of the deed. Number 2, what else? The success of the action, the accomplishment, is based on the intention. If you have the truthfulness of the contemplation, then the truthfulness of the will, that is the firm will, the execution, the perseverance, that's when you are able to accomplish something. But if you start with a shaky intention, half-hearted will, half-hearted intention, doesn't work, right? Then anything does not get through. Does that make sense? So that does not stay or is not limited to the faith matters, actually, to anything you do in life. Needs, like, this is what actually, if you want to call the azima, what we call the azima, resolution, to be resolute, actually. So first, to have the truthfulness of the intention, then the firm will, and then the resolution. When you execute it, you really mean it, and you're gonna make it happen, no matter what. Okay? And then the perseverance, we cannot stop in the middle of the road. We stop only after one thing, mission accomplished. Right? This is what the Prophet ﷺ said. What did the Prophet ﷺ say? I think this is the most powerful statement in history, honestly, about doing anything. He said, by Allah, if they put the sun in my hand and the moon in my left hand and ask me to stop this matter, I'm not going to stop till Allah make it prevail or I'm perished. No return. Where does that come? That comes from truthfulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pure intention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As such, before anything, you have to have the intention, the purity of the intention, the right intention, that is the sidq ma Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now you know how إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. So actions are based on the intentions. And that starts with the pre-contemplation. Why I keep emphasizing the pre-contemplation part? Because anything you do in your life, the way you spend your day, is leading that, you're getting the supplies for the kitchen, right? And your brain is gonna cook them now. So anything you do is gonna happen. It's gonna somehow be processed by your brain and then it produce something. That's why a lot of people think, oh, I know I can make tawbah. No, you can't. It's not easy, right? It's not the way you determine things. Oh, I know I can change things. Yeah, but sometimes it may be too late. Because this is the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala designed the brain. And again, Allah told you, He pointed this out to you, what you know and what you don't know. So you better straighten up and do what is good before. What you don't know may be more dangerous, actually, than what you think. Right? And this is why anything you do, again, starts, it's about the thought, actually. When the thought is right, pure, true to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it produces the basic solid foundation, which will lead to the success, to the accomplishment, to the purity, to the acceptance of the deed. And when you have any defect or flaw or deficiency in the work, we need to go back and rectify what's inside. That is the intention. Even when the apparent work is sometimes, good, but if it's not lying on a solid foundation or on the right intention, then it is not accepted. Such as you have a huge building, but has no foundation, no solid foundation. It looks great, right? But when does it show that it has no value? When you have a storm, blows it away. Right? Same thing with deeds. These people who do things, some people might give it charity, do this, do that. These are the people who are shaken by fitan, actually. The first people to be blown away by a storm of fitna. They don't settle. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends fitan. Why? To shake these people and reveal their intentions to them and wake them up, actually, that you're not right. Okay? So I'm going to point out one linguistic aspect, actually, in this sentence. That if I say al-a'malu bin-niyat, what does that mean? Al-a'malu bin-niyat. Deeds are based on intentions or are tied to intentions, right? But then the Prophet ﷺ used innama. What is innama?
Always.
I'm sorry?
Emphasis.
Yeah, but what in Arabic, not exactly. In Arabic, actually, it's called like a tool for exclusivity. Meaning, deeds are based only and only on intentions, right? So not only did the Prophet ﷺ say they're like based on intention, but he used innama exclusively. So that gives you more emphasis, right? And more power to that meaning, right? Innama meaning that is it, right? That only and only that. Innama al-a'malu bin-niyat, right? And then the Prophet ﷺ, now I hope the hadith could be understood in light of what we've said, like in a clearer way. And now he said, وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. And every person will get, and that is in terms of accomplishment or in terms of reward, what they have intended. And he's given you some examples. So, whose migration was for Allah and His Messenger, and we're going to talk about the hijrah in a little bit, then it is for Allah and His Messenger. Right? And notice that he said, hijratuhu ila Allahi wa rasuluh, then it is for Allahi wa rasuluh. Right? Right? He repeated the same statement. And then if it was for dunya yusibuha, a worldly matter to attain or gain, or a woman to marry, then hijratuhu, he didn't say like Allah wa rasuluh, dunya yusibuha. He didn't say then it is for that dunya or for that wife. He said for whatever he has migrated. What does that mean? It's not important, it's insignificant. He doesn't want to repeat it. For whatever he has migrated for. See that? So that's a distinction telling you what Allah wa Rasuluh versus other things. It's not worth of even mentioning. He doesn't want to repeat that word. The first one suffices to tell you what he's talking about, and let's not talk about it anymore. It's not worth of talking about. See, this is subhanAllah. The Prophet ﷺ wouldn't even use 2 words, 4 words, and waste the time, because this is how significant it is in his sight. Not even talking about. It wasn't a chapter. It wasn't the 1 minute. It would take, what, 2 seconds? Let's not talk about it. So that shows you where Allah wa Rasul and what the focus, what the priority should be, and where dunya yusibuha. And dunya, he lifted general, the entire world actually. Not, that's including the wealth, the children, the assets, everything. So, again, you know, the Prophet ﷺ tells you that your intention, your focus should start by being rectified, being to Allah, being to His Messenger, and not the other way around, to focus on gaining the world. And he gave you, like, you know, women, because that's one of the most attraction, or the most common attractions in people's life, right? So he didn't want to even go like through the list, right? This, and that. But he told you in general. He gave you one general, one specific example, done, and let's not talk about it. It's not worth mentioning anymore. Does that make sense?
Yes.
طيب, inshallah, I'm going to stop here. And next halaqa we'll have another session. Bi-iznillahi ta'ala. I'm going to give you 5 minutes for the questions, so this way we don't leave any gaps.
Can you repeat the 5 things that you mentioned, Sheikh? You said truthfulness of the intention, truthfulness of the speech, and then you said truthfulness of the contemplation.
Of the will, yeah, that's your will.
Okay, the will.
And then truthfulness in initiation, actually, or execution, that's the azima, the resolution. And then truthfulness of maintaining the work, that is the istiqama, or perseverance.
What was the third one again, Sheikh?
Resolution.
No, before resolution.
Speech, the strong will. That happens before, like, you know, we're going to do it, right? We have not started yet. When you start initiating, executing, that's the azima. You move like a storm. And then you maintain that momentum, basically. Don't allow it to fade away. That is the istiqamah.
So you mentioned that niyyah is actually a process or a thought that's even before what comes into our consciousness. The root. So how can we actually work on it when it's like even before
Right.
something that's not even in our consciousness,
Exactly.
so to speak?
What is cooking in your pre-consciousness, actually, or subconsciousness, is dictated by what you do throughout the day. So Allah is warning you that what you do is going to affect you somehow. So you always make tawbah from whatever you've done wrong and ask Allah to give you the energy, to give you the tawfiq, to actually have the right intentions. So always think about it and ask Allah to give you the tawfiq for the right intention, actually. Does that make sense?
So at times, like with a lot of acts of worship, for example, prayer, like, sometimes we consciously think about it, but sometimes like we have to pray Zuhar, so you just get up and pray. Most, especially when you're very busy, so that's how you do it, like prayers, because you have to. The whole part of like irada and azima, istiqama, you don't really consciously think about that. So
Yeah, I mean,
is that still acceptable?
It is, inshallah, but that's, the more powerful the iman comes, the more aware of these things, and the more light you get into your psyche, actually, what am I doing? And they said that's the beginning of the tawfiq, to know what your nafs is doing, actually. When you're blinded and you don't know what's going on, that's a sign that, something is not right. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala awakens that in you, you start actually knowing. And that's a sign you say like, man, what's wrong? I mean, I wasn't like that. This is a good sign. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is opening your eyes to see what's happening inside. Right? So, the basic things is always to go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Try to rectify that niyyah. Try to think it is for the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord, the Creator, that we do things. And anything else is not even worth of mentioning. Right? This is exactly what the hadith is telling you. It's a comparison between Allah, the Creator, and the creation. Right? And there is no simile. Right? And inshallah, next time we will give you more hadith, more insight. This is just an introduction, basic understanding of the hadith. Next time, inshallah, we'll give you some more practical aspects to it.
I don't know, maybe this will be covered in your next session, but the most difficult aspect of this that I can't reconcile or I'm having difficulty with is obviously your intention and the reward is based on, if you do it for Allah, Allah is going to reward you. But if you do something for this dunya, you get it and it's done, right? How do you reconcile this with that other hadith of, that lady who saved that dog and her lifestyle was bad and what have you? Yet Allah put her in Jannah. She didn't there's no indication of an intention that she's doing this for Allah. She was just saving a dog, saving a life. So how do you reconcile these? Because a lot of things we do unconsciously. I mean, it's like, okay, I go buy groceries. Yes, I'm buying it for the family because I'm supposed to be the owner. I'm supposed to provide. But I don't have taqwa where I'm consciously thinking about this every time that Allah is going to reward me for every gallon of milk that I'm buying. So how do you reconcile this?
This is inshallah going to be covered in details when we talk about this next or the following halaqat. I'm just going to give you a brief answer here so we don't leave it hanging for a couple of more weeks. So there are two things. If there is something that is solely done as a ritual done for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like salah, if you do it for some other reward, people do charity so they can write their name on the building. right? Donation by XYZ. Or people say like, I'm an awesome person, I'm great, I do this. And so then this becomes a sin actually. It's a shirk, right? Now you're talking about these things that are not related to faith. And this is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you do certain things that Allah has made a way, like when you feed your children, when you feed your family, Allah made this out of His mercy actually, as an act of good deed that He will reward you, either in this dunya or the akhirah. And Allah, based on His mercy, and sometimes He'll give you the reward based on the root pre-contemplation actually, why you're doing things. Do you believe Allah created you, you are responsible for these people, or are you doing it just out of just worldly matter, right? So people are not the same. So there is actually that pre-contemplation, even when you're not aware of it. That lady, she was in pre-Islam actually, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has willed that this is what He wants to do with her, like admit her to Jannah, because she had that goodness in her heart, that mercy in her heart, whether she thought, oh, I'm going to go to Jannah or not. Because Allah, again, in the Quran, in the Hadith actually, whoever has like a grain worth of Iman, eventually will go to the Jannah. Right? And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala magnified that good deed out of His mercy. Okay? Does that answer the question?
We're not lost hope that...
No, alhamdulillah, this hadith is only to give you hope, inshallah. But again, we cannot give you like 5 hours hadith in 45 minutes.
Yeah, we got like 2 minutes to adhan. 2 minutes till the adhan.
Okay. Anything else?
Sheikh, the ayah that we mentioned earlier, وَعَلَمُ السِّرَّ وَأَخْفَى. Sheikh, what is akhfa again? Is that even deeper than
Akhfa
sir?
is deeper, exactly.
Okay, so
the secret, what's hidden, and then what's deeper. Akhfa is even more hidden. That's actually the exact translation. That's in Surah Taha. Inshallah, to be continued. Jazakumullah khairan.